I believed divorce was my only escape, until one sentence changed everything.
What if the person you once loved feels like a stranger? I thought divorce was my only escape, until one sentence changed everything. Thin morning sunlight filters through the glass doors of the Holloway apartment, barely warming the cluttered living room. Outside, Seattle's skyline cuts a sharp silhouette against a pale, cloud-streaked sky. Sabrina Holloway sits on the narrow balcony, a half-empty mug of coffee balanced on the railing beside her, hands curled tightly around the ceramic, as if the heat might seep into her bones and ward off the chill inside her chest. Car horns and the distant hiss of city buses echo up from the streets below, but up here it's just Sabrina, her thoughts, and the dull ache of exhaustion. Inside, Marcus Holloway moves through the kitchen with slow, practiced motions. He's tall, his hair still damp from a rushed shower, and he's dressed in a blue button-down that's slightly wrinkled at the collar. He pours cereal into a bowl, eyes fixed on a tablet propped against the counter, scrolling through what looks like lesson plans. He doesn't look up as Sabrina slips past him, grabbing her phone from the charger and a granola bar from the pantry. "Morning," Marcus says, voice barely above a whisper. Sabrina hesitates, waiting for something more. A smile, a question, even a joke about her running late again. But he's already turned away, spoon in hand, his attention swallowed by the screen. Sabrina glances at the digital clock on the oven. 7:18 a.m. She sighs, pulling her coat tighter around her frame, and heads for the door. "Have a good day," she calls, her voice echoing slightly in the small apartment. Marcus finally looks up, but only for a moment. "You too." The words hang in the air, heavy and final, as if marking the end of a conversation that never really started. The elevator ride down is silent. Sabrina stares at her reflection in the polished steel, shoulders tense, eyes rimmed with fatigue, lips pressed into a thin, uncertain line. She tries to remember the last time she and Marcus laughed together, or even had a conversation that wasn't about groceries, bills, or the cat's vet appointment. A memory flickers. Marcus grinning, a hand on her waist as they danced in the kitchen years ago. It feels like watching strangers, blurry and distant. By the time Sabrina steps onto the bustling street, her phone is already buzzing with work notifications. She ducks into the flow of commuters, the city's rhythm pulling her forward. Traffic rumbles, rain spits against the pavement, and neon coffee shop signs cast warm glows into the gray morning. Sabrina's first meeting is in 20 minutes, but she needs something stronger than office coffee. She pushes open the door to a corner coffee shop, the familiar scent of espresso and pastries wrapping around her. The place is packed with people in raincoats and scarves, laptops open, baristas calling out orders over the hum of conversation. At a table near the window, Priya Mendel waits, waving her phone above her head. Priya's the kind of friend who always manages to look effortlessly put together, even in a sweatshirt and jeans. Her dark hair is pulled into a neat bun, and her eyes light up as Sabrina approaches. "Hey, you made it," Priya says, sliding a latte across the table. "You look tired. Or, more tired than usual?" Sabrina manages a rueful smile, dropping into the chair. She wraps her hands around the warm cup, savoring the comfort. "Rough morning, again." Priya's expression softens. "How bad?" Sabrina glances out the window, watching rain trace patterns on the glass. "It's like we just pass each other. Like roommates. Not, partners. I can't remember the last time we really talked. Every morning it's the same. Cereal, work, silence." Priya leans in, lowering her voice. "Have you told him how you feel?" Sabrina shakes her head, chewing her lip. "I try, but it's like talking to a wall. He's always distracted with school stuff. I got a promotion last week, Priya. He didn't even notice." There's a pause as Priya processes this, her brow furrowing. "That's rough." Sabrina sips her coffee, letting the warmth fill the hollow in her chest. "I just feel invisible, like I'm screaming but no one hears me. Last night I Googled divorce lawyers in Seattle. I got as far as filling out a consultation form. Priya's eyes widen, concern etched into every line of her face. Did you send it? Sabrina shakes her head. I couldn't. Not yet. Priya reaches across the table, squeezing Sabrina's hand. Look, I get it. But before you do anything drastic, maybe try talking to someone? Counseling? Just one session, for your own peace of mind. Sabrina withdraws her hand, fidgeting with the coffee sleeve. I don't know, Priya. What if it's already too late? What if it's just broken? Priya sits back, offering a gentle, knowing smile. You always said you'd do everything you could before giving up. Don't you want to know you tried? Sabrina stares down at the table, the question echoing in her mind. Halfway across town, Marcus stands in the crowded hallway of Roosevelt Middle School, surrounded by the sharp scent of disinfectant and the distant clatter of lockers. His classroom is already buzzing with students, voices bouncing off the walls, the white noise of adolescence. Marcus tucks his tablet under his arm and steps inside, past posters of the solar system and a half-finished volcano project. He's good at this, engaging, patient, always ready with a joke or an experiment to capture his students' attention. But today, his mind drifts. He misses the small details, forgets to collect homework from the front row, and ignores the congratulatory email about Sabrina's recent promotion that sits unread in his inbox. During his lunch break, Marcus eats alone at his desk, a sandwich untouched as he stares out the rain-speckled window. He pulls up Sabrina's number on his phone, thumb hovering over the call button. He wants to say something, anything, to bridge the widening gap between them. But the words won't come. Instead, he puts the phone down and returns to grading papers, the opportunity slipping silently away. That evening, the apartment feels colder than usual. Sabrina sits on the edge of their bed, laptop open, divorce consultation webpage glowing in the dim light. She reads the same paragraph over and over. Confidential, supportive. Your next chapter starts here. Her finger hovers over the submit button, heart pounding. She thinks about the nights she lay awake, listening to Marcus's steady breathing, wishing he'd reach for her. She remembers the arguments, never explosive, just quiet, resigned. 1,000 tiny disappointments stacking up until the weight is unbearable. A ping from Priya breaks the silence. Dinner tomorrow? Or just a call if you need to talk? Sabrina closes the laptop, rubbing her temples. She wants to say yes to Priya, to everything Priya recommends. Counseling, hope, maybe even forgiveness. But hope feels like a luxury she can't afford. The next afternoon, rain falls in thin, persistent sheets, washing the city in silvery gray. Sabrina meets Priya again, this time at a Thai place just a block from her office. They sit by the window, watching pedestrians dash under umbrellas, steam rising from plates of spicy noodles. So? Priya asks, spearing a piece of tofu. Did you think about what I said? Sabrina nods, pushing rice around her plate. I did. I'm scared it won't help. What if we're too far gone for counseling? Priya shrugs, her tone gentle but firm. Then you'll know for sure. But if you don't try, this will always haunt you. One session, Sabrina. Just to say you gave it everything. Sabrina glances at her reflection in the window. Tired, uncertain, but still searching for a reason to hope. Later that night, Sabrina sits at the kitchen table, scrolling through reviews of therapists. She stops at Dr. Julian Rhodes. Empathetic, experienced, specializes in couples counseling. She hesitates, then clicks, book appointment. Her hand trembles as she types in their names, her email, her phone number. Marcus steps into the kitchen, carrying a stack of papers. He pauses, noticing the tension in her shoulders, the way she doesn't look up. Everything okay? He asks, voice tentative. Sabrina closes the laptop, forcing a small smile. Yeah, just work stuff. They stand in silence, the hum of the fridge the only sound. Marcus nods, setting the papers on the counter. I'll be grading in the living room if you need me. Sabrina wants to call out, to say something honest and raw. Instead, she lets him go, her confession dying in her throat. The appointment confirmation pings in her inbox. Thursday, 6:30 p.m. Sabrina closes her eyes, exhaling slowly, as if bracing for impact. The evening drags on, each minute heavy with words unsaid. Sabrina sits on the balcony again, watching headlights snake through the wet streets below. The city is alive. Horns, voices, laughter drifting up from open windows. But up here, she feels impossibly alone. In the quiet, her phone buzzes with another message from Priya. "Proud of you. You're braver than you think." Sabrina types a reply, then deletes it. She isn't sure what she feels anymore. Fear, relief, maybe a flicker of hope. She presses a palm to her chest, feeling her heartbeat steady beneath her ribs. As Thursday approaches, Sabrina finds herself watching Marcus more closely. She notices the way he rubs his temples when he's tired, how he still makes coffee for her every morning, even when they barely speak. She wonders if he's as lost as she is, stranded in the same silent storm. At work, Sabrina's focus slips. She forgets deadlines, snaps at a colleague, spends long minutes staring out the window at the rain. Her boss calls her in for a quick chat, voice gentle but concerned. "You seem distracted lately, Sabrina. Everything okay at home?" Sabrina forces a smile. "Just a lot on my mind. I'll get back on track." After work, Sabrina meets Priya one more time, this time for a walk through Volunteer Park. The rain has stopped, leaving the air crisp and clean, the city lights reflected in puddles along the path. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Priya asks, looping her arm through Sabrina's. Sabrina nods, exhaling a shaky breath. "I don't know what else to do. If I don't try, I'll always wonder." Priya hugs her, tight and reassuring. "No matter what happens, I'm here. You're not alone." That night, Sabrina tells Marcus about the appointment. She finds him in the living room, grading papers, glasses perched on the end of his nose. "I booked us a counseling session," she says, voice trembling. "Thursday evening. Just one. I need to know I did everything I could." Marcus looks up, surprise flickering across his face. He nods slowly, setting his pen down. "Okay, I'll be there." They sit in silence, the distance between them measured in inches and years. As the rain begins again, tapping softly against the windows, Sabrina lies awake, staring at the ceiling. She wonders if one session can really make a difference, if any words can bridge the gap between two people who used to be everything to each other. In the darkness, she whispers the question out loud, her voice lost in the hush of the city. "Have you ever felt like giving up was your only option?" And somewhere, in the quiet, hope flickers, fragile, stubborn, refusing to be extinguished. VO. Have you ever felt like giving up was your only option? Share your story in the comments below. A hush loomed over the Holloway apartment as evening settled in, quiet except for the distant hum of traffic and the occasional drip from the kitchen faucet. Sabrina stood by the window, absent-mindedly tracing patterns on the fogged glass, her mind replaying the morning's promise, a single, reluctant yes to couples therapy. Now, with the day's light fading behind the cityscape, a sense of foreboding pressed on her chest. Marcus's keys rattled in the lock. She straightened, nerves buzzing, watching him step inside, rain flecked across his jacket. He glanced her way, offered a faint smile. Hey, Sabrina echoed, her voice thinner than she meant. They orbited one another through dinner, words clipped and practical. Did you eat? How was work? Never quite touching the ache beneath. The arrangement of their plates on the table, the silence between each bite, felt rehearsed, like actors fumbling lines in a play they no longer believed in. The next afternoon, Sabrina pushed open the heavy glass door of Dr. Julian Rhodes's office, her heart thudding. Marcus was already there, perched stiffly on a navy armchair, hands folded over his knees. The room was softly lit, filled with books and the faint scent of sandalwood. Diplomas lined the walls behind Dr. Rhodes, who sat opposite, notepad in hand, gaze open and expectant. "Thank you both for coming," Dr. Rhodes began, voice warm and low. "I know this isn't easy." Sabrina nodded, eyes fixed on the geometric pattern of the rug. Marcus cleared his throat, glancing at her, then away. There was a long silence. Dr. Rhodes let it stretch, the quiet itself speaking volumes. Finally, Marcus broke it. I don't really know what I'm supposed to say." Sabrina looked up, surprised by the vulnerability in his voice. She realized, with a pang, that she didn't either. Dr. Rhodes offered a gentle prompt. "Maybe start with what brought you here." Sabrina hesitated. "We don't talk, not really. It's like we're living parallel lives." Marcus rubbed his palms together. "Sometimes I feel invisible, like nothing I do matters." Sabrina felt a hot rush of emotion, anger, guilt, a desperate wish to rewind time. "You don't see me either, Marcus. You're always grading papers or going to school events. I've felt alone for months." He looked wounded, but only nodded. "Doctor." Rhodes listened, jotting notes, guiding them with gentle questions. The session unfolded in fits and starts, awkward silences, prickly confessions, the slow unearthing of grievances left unsaid for too long. Sabrina's voice shook as she talked about feeling overlooked, her efforts at intimacy ignored. Marcus admitted he'd stopped trying, fearing rejection, unsure how to bridge the chasm. When the session ended, they left in silence. Outside, rain glistened on the pavement, neon signs reflecting in puddles. Sabrina hugged her coat tighter, her mind racing with doubts. That night, sleep eluded her. She replayed scenes from their early years, laughter echoing in their first apartment, Marcus surprising her with takeout on late work nights, the way he'd reach for her hand on walks through Volunteer Park. She compared those memories to the present, two people on opposite sides of a bed, backs turned. The following morning, her phone buzzed with a message from Priya. "How did it go? Want to meet for coffee?" Sabrina typed back, "Later. Don't know what to say yet." At work, the open plan office was a blur of keyboards and half-finished conversations. Sabrina stared at her screen, a campaign brief open, but her mind drifted. Her boss, Eleanor, stopped by her desk, concern etched in her brow. "Everything all right, Sabrina? You missed a deadline for the Reeves proposal." Sabrina winced. "Sorry, I've just been distracted." Eleanor softened. "I get it, but you're one of my best. If you need time, let me know." Heat crept up Sabrina's neck as she nodded. She wanted to say more, to explain, but the words stuck in her throat. Lunch break found her slumped in a corner booth at a nearby cafe. The rain had intensified, rhythmically pattering against the window. Priya slid in across from her, setting down 2 steaming cups. "So?" Priya prompted, eyes kind but probing. Sabrina exhaled. "It was hard. We barely talked. I said things I didn't mean. Marcus looked like he wanted to be anywhere else." Priya offered a reassuring smile. "That's normal. The first session is always weird. You're both raw." "Priya, I don't know if it's worth it. What if nothing changes?" Sabrina's voice quivered, the question heavier than she wanted to admit. Priya reached across the table, squeezing her hand. "Give it a chance. You said you'd try, right? Don't make any big decisions yet. Let the process work." Sabrina nodded, but doubt gnawed at her. She sipped her coffee, staring out at the blurry city. Did people really change? Could she? That evening, Marcus arrived home early, arms full of groceries. He moved quietly in the kitchen, slicing vegetables, setting the table with care. Sabrina hovered in the doorway, uncertain. "Dinner's almost ready," Marcus said, voice tentative. She watched as he served her favorite dish, chicken and wild rice soup, the recipe she'd taught him when they were newlyweds. He ladled it into bowls, the aroma warm and familiar. Sabrina sat, appetite absent. "You didn't have to do this." Marcus shrugged, not meeting her eyes. Figured it couldn't hurt. They ate in silence, spoons clinking against ceramic. Sabrina wanted to thank him, to reach across the table, but the words tangled. Instead, she retreated to the bedroom afterwards, closing the door softly behind her. Rain tapped steadily at the window. She lay on top of the covers, scrolling absent-mindedly through her phone, landing on the draft of the divorce consultation email she'd saved days ago. Her finger hovered over the screen, breath shallow. A message popped up, Dr. Rhodes, confirming their next session. Sabrina's chest tightened. She replied, scanning Marcus's calendar to check his school commitments. He had parent-teacher conferences that week, his evenings packed. She texted him the options, waiting for a reply. He responded minutes later. "Can we make it Thursday? I'll switch with Davis if I have to." She stared at the message, surprised by his willingness to rearrange his schedule. Still, a bitter voice in her head whispered, "Too late." At the next therapy session, the tension was thicker. Dr. Rhodes invited them to reflect on their week. Marcus spoke first, voice low. "I tried to do something nice. Dinner. I thought maybe... I don't know. It didn't seem to help." Sabrina bristled. "It felt forced, like you were checking a box." He flinched. "I was trying. I didn't know what else to do." Dr. Rhodes leaned in. "It sounds like you both want something to change, but you're struggling to communicate those needs." Sabrina's eyes stung. "I want to feel seen, not just tolerated." Marcus gripped the arm of his chair. "When I try, it never feels like enough. I'm not good at this." The session spiraled, resentment surfacing, small hurts magnified by months of silence. Dr. Rhodes gently steered them, but their words ricocheted, neither quite able to bridge the gap. By the end, they sat slumped, exhausted. Later, Sabrina met Priya for a late walk, umbrellas bobbing beneath the drizzle. They circled the block, city lights flickering through the mist. "I keep wondering if we're too broken," Sabrina confessed, voice barely audible over the rain. "Is it even possible to fix years of this?" Priya nudged her gently. "Sabrina, nobody changes overnight, but you're both showing up. That counts for something." She nodded, but the uncertainty lingered, heavy as the gray clouds overhead. As the week wore on, the strain bled into every part of Sabrina's life. She snapped at colleagues, missed another deadline. Eleanor called her in for a private chat. "I'm worried about you, Sabrina. If you need to take a day or talk to someone, please do. We can't afford to lose you." Sabrina forced a grateful smile, promising to get back on track. But her confidence was eroding. Even small decisions, what to cook, which emails to answer, felt insurmountable. At home, Marcus tiptoed around her, the air brittle with things unsaid. One evening she found him asleep on the couch, lesson plans scattered across his chest, glasses askew. A pang of sadness cut through her irritation. When had exhaustion replaced affection? That night, unable to sleep, Sabrina scrolled through old photos. Trips to Mount Rainier, birthday cakes, Marcus's goofy grin at the zoo. The woman in those pictures looked open, unguarded. She hardly recognized herself. Therapy became a fixture in their week, but progress was painstaking. Scheduling was a constant headache. Marcus's after-school meetings, Sabrina's campaign launches, both of them juggling commitments just to show up. Sometimes one would arrive late, frazzled, the other simmering with unspoken annoyance. Dr. Rhodes noticed. "Scheduling is a symptom, not the root," he observed. "You're both prioritizing everything but each other." Sabrina bristled at the truth in his words. One session, Dr. Rhodes asked them to recall a time they felt truly understood by each other. Sabrina's mind went blank. She fumbled for an answer, embarrassed. Marcus spoke quietly. "When you helped me with my grad school application." I was terrified. "You stayed up with me, editing every essay. I felt like you were on my team." Sabrina blinked back tears. "I'd forgotten about that." Marcus looked down. "Me too." By the end of the month, their progress was measured in inches. Small gestures, a cup of coffee left on a desk, a note scribbled on the fridge, were often misread as obligations. The walls between them seemed insurmountable. Still, they kept going. Each session peeled back another layer, exposing wounds, but also, sometimes, faint glimmers of hope. One rainy Thursday, as Sabrina watched droplets race down the office window, her phone chimed with a notification from the channel. If you've ever faced a tough relationship decision, consider subscribing for more real-life stories like this. She hesitated, then smiled wryly. Maybe she wasn't alone after all. Returning home that night, Sabrina lingered on the balcony, city lights blurred by rain. Somewhere below, a siren wailed, then faded. She breathed in the damp air, heart heavy but not yet hopeless. Inside, Marcus cleared his throat. "Do you want to talk?" She nodded, wary, unsure if anything would change. But for the first time in months, she wanted to try. Outside, the rain continued, washing the city clean for another uncertain morning. Seattle's relentless rain drums against the windows, a gray sheet blurring the view of Capitol Hill's familiar rooftops. The Holloway apartment feels even smaller tonight, shadows pooling in the corners as if the tension between Sabrina and Marcus is something physical, thick enough to touch. The air is heavy, every breath a negotiation. An unspoken truce, fragile, temporary, hangs between them, held together only by the knowledge that tomorrow they'll have to face Dr. Rhodes for what will likely be their final counseling session. Sabrina sits hunched at the kitchen table, laptop open but untouched, the blue glow from the screen throwing stark lines across her tired face. Her phone buzzes with a new email. Her boss, another gentle reminder about slipping deadlines. But she ignores it. Instead, she stares at the empty chair across from her, where Marcus should be. In the distance, she hears the clatter of his keys as he enters the apartment, his footsteps hesitant. He pauses in the hallway, as if summoning the courage to step into the same room. She knows what's coming before he says a word. The argument about their anniversary had started as a spark, Marcus's forgetfulness igniting a pile of dry, brittle resentments, and had flared into a wildfire that scorched everything between them. Words were said, sharp and quick, and now silence is all that's left. Marcus finally appears, rainwater dripping from the shoulders of his worn jacket. He looks at her, his eyes rimmed with exhaustion, and for a moment, Sabrina sees not the man she married, but a stranger. Still, there's something in the set of his jaw, the way his hands twist nervously at his sides, a silent plea for understanding, or at least a truce. He clears his throat. "I'll sleep on the couch tonight," he says quietly, voice hoarse. Something in Sabrina wants to protest, to reach out, but the words die in her throat. She only nods, not trusting herself to speak. The night stretches on, punctuated by the occasional rumble of thunder. Sabrina tries to sleep, but her mind replays the evening's argument in brutal detail. Her voice rising, Marcus's wounded expression, the way he turned away just as she wanted him to fight for her. She wonders, not for the first time, when exactly everything began to unravel, and whether it's already too late to stitch themselves back together. Morning comes all too soon, pale light leaking into the living room where Marcus lies curled beneath a thin blanket. He's already awake, staring at the ceiling, eyes tracing invisible patterns in the plaster. Sabrina stands in the doorway for a moment, watching him. He looks small, vulnerable, a stark contrast to the man who once swept her off her feet with easy laughter and quiet confidence. She almost speaks. Instead, she retreats to the bathroom, her reflection in the mirror looking every bit as worn as she feels. They move around each other in silence, getting ready for the day. Marcus's lunch bag sits untouched on the counter. Sabrina's keys jangle in her hand, a nervous tick. When they leave, it's together, but with a gulf between them so wide, she wonders if any bridge could possibly span it. The city is awash in silver as they arrive at Dr. Rhodes's office, the early hour lending a hush to the lobby. Sabrina fiddles with the strap of her purse, Marcus scrolling absently through his phone. When the receptionist calls their names, they rise in tandem, each bracing for the final round. Dr. Rhodes greets them with his usual calm, ushering them into the softly lit office. Bookshelves line the walls, diplomas and artwork sharing space with potted plants that lend a touch of green to the otherwise neutral palette. The sound of rain against the windows is a constant backdrop, a reminder that, outside these walls, life continues regardless of heartbreak. They settle into their usual spots, Sabrina on the edge of the couch, Marcus in the armchair angled away from her. Dr. Rhodes takes his seat across from them, a notebook balanced on his knee. He surveys them for a moment, eyes kind but piercing. "You both look tired," he observes gently. Sabrina forces a small, brittle laugh. "That's one way to put it." Marcus doesn't respond, gaze fixed on the carpet. Dr. Rhodes leans forward. "Before we begin, I want to remind you both. This space is about honesty, even if it's uncomfortable." Sabrina finds herself nodding, though the knot in her stomach tightens. "We're going to do something different today, Dr. Sigh," Rhodes continues. "I want each of you to share one thing you wish the other understood about you, something you may have never said out loud." A beat of silence. Sabrina's heart hammers in her chest, the words she's practiced. "I don't feel seen. I don't feel loved." Suddenly caught behind her teeth, Dr. Rhodes turns to Marcus first. "Marcus, would you like to start?" Marcus's fingers tap a rapid staccato against the arm of his chair. He glances at Sabrina, then away again. The silence stretches, weighted and awkward. Finally, he speaks, voice barely above a whisper. "I wish you knew how hard I'm trying. Even when—" He stops, swallows. "Even when it looks like I've given up. I haven't. I don't always know what to do or how to make things better. But I want to. I just—" He breaks off, shaking his head. Sabrina's breath catches. It's the most honest thing he's said in months. Dr. Rhodes nods encouragingly. "Go on." Marcus's voice is steadier this time. "I wish you believed I want to fight for us, even when I don't know how." The room goes absolutely still. Sabrina feels as if the world has narrowed to just this moment, the rain outside fading to a faint memory. She stares at Marcus, really looks at him, and for the first time in a long while, she sees something raw and real beneath the fatigue. A flicker of hope, or maybe just desperation. Her mind reels, replaying the past few months in reverse. She remembers every small gesture she'd dismissed as insufficient. The awkward dinners he'd cooked, the text messages checking in late at night, the way he'd waited up for her on evenings she worked late. She'd seen each as a half-hearted attempt, evidence of a man already halfway out the door. But now, confronted with the vulnerability in his eyes, she wonders if she'd been wrong. Had she been so focused on her own pain, her own loneliness, that she'd missed the ways Marcus was trying to reach her? Had she mistaken clumsy effort for apathy? Dr. Rhodes's voice breaks through her reverie. "Sabrina, what do you wish Marcus understood?" She swallows hard, blinking back the sudden sting of tears. "I wish you knew how lonely I felt," she says, her voice trembling. "It's like we're in the same room, but on different planets. And I know I haven't made it easy for you to come closer. She falters, clutching the edge of the couch. "I was so sure you'd already left me, even if you were still here." Marcus looks up, his expression crumpling. "I didn't leave," he says, the words rough. Sabrina lets out a shaky breath, her chest loosening just a fraction. The silence that follows is different now, softer, tentative. Dr. Rhodes nods, his gaze warm. Acknowledging the gap is the first step to bridging it. You've both been fighting battles the other couldn't see. Sabrina feels something inside her shift. For weeks, she'd convinced herself that divorce was the only way out, a clean escape from the ache of disappointment and unmet expectations. But now, hearing Marcus admit that he wants to fight for them, even in his uncertainty, she realizes her assumptions may have been the biggest barrier of all. For a long moment, neither of them speaks. The rain has slowed, the city outside brightening by degrees. Sabrina looks at Marcus, really sees him. The lines of stress etched deep, the hope flickering in his tired eyes. And she feels the faintest spark of something she thought she'd lost. Possibility. Dr. Rhodes smiles gently. You can choose to keep fighting or to walk away. But now, you're finally seeing each other. Sabrina nods, a single tear slipping down her cheek. She doesn't have all the answers, but for the first time in months, she no longer feels trapped. Escape, she realizes, was never her only option. Not when there's still something left worth fighting for. And with that single sentence hanging between them, simple, honest, and utterly transformative, everything changes. The air in Dr. Rhodes's office was different this time. Not lighter, not yet, but changed. Sabrina sat on the familiar navy couch, her hands folded in her lap, eyes tracing the pattern in the rug beneath her feet. Marcus sat across from her, shoulders hunched, rolling his wedding ring absently between thumb and forefinger. Outside, the Seattle rain streaked the windows, the city's sounds muffled by thick glass and the weight of what had just happened. That sentence, Marcus's voice, uncertain but raw. I wish you believed I want to fight for us, even when I don't know how. It still echoed in Sabrina's mind, looping with every heartbeat. For months she'd convinced herself that Marcus had already left her in all the ways that mattered. She'd stopped looking for signs he cared, stopped noticing the way he lingered in the kitchen after dinner, or how he brought her coffee just the way she liked it, even when she barely glanced up from her laptop. Dr. Rhodes's gentle voice broke the silence. Sabrina, what are you feeling right now? She opened her mouth, unsure, honestly, vulnerable. I guess I never thought about what you wanted, Marcus. I just assumed you'd given up because I was tired, because I wanted out. She looked over at him, really seeing him, the dark circles under his eyes, the nervous twist of his hands. But you were still here, even when I wasn't really looking. Marcus swallowed. I didn't know how to fix things. Every time I tried, it felt like I was making it worse. Trying matters, Dr. Rhodes said quietly. Sometimes we discount effort when we're in pain. Sabrina, what do you want now? Sabrina's gaze drifted to the window, where raindrops chased each other down the glass. I want to try. Really try. Not just show up, but listen. Be honest about what I need, and ask what you need too. She turned to Marcus, voice trembling. I don't want to just be roommates. I want to remember how to be partners again. A pause. Marcus's eyes glistened, but he nodded. So do I. Dr. Rhodes offered a small smile. That's a place to start. It's not the end of your work, but it's a real beginning. That night, the Holloway apartment felt less like a battlefield and more like neutral ground. Sabrina cleared the dinner dishes while Marcus finished grading papers at the table, his pen scratching softly. The silence was no longer hostile. It was tentative, like the first tentative steps onto new ice. Sabrina set a mug of tea beside him. Marcus looked up, surprised, and she offered a small, uncertain smile. Can we talk? Not about work or the apartment. Just us? She asked, pulling out the chair across from him. He nodded, setting his pen aside. I'd like that. The conversation didn't solve everything. There were awkward pauses. Sabrina admitted how lonely she'd felt, how she'd convinced herself that leaving was her only option. Marcus shared how invisible he'd been feeling, not just at home, but at school too, that he'd been pouring all his energy into his students because it felt like the only place he was making a difference. They talked about the small things, missing each other's calls, the way their routines had become rigid, how easy it was to stop noticing each other, how fear had made both of them retreat into themselves. At one point, Marcus hesitated. I'm scared, Sabrina. Scared that I'll mess up again and you'll decide it's not worth it. Sabrina reached for his hand, her fingers tentative but warm. I'm scared too. But I'd rather try and be scared together than give up alone. Over the next weeks, the changes were subtle, almost invisible, unless you knew to look. Sabrina started leaving her phone in another room during dinner. Marcus started asking her about her day, really listening, not just waiting for his turn to speak. They carved out time, just an hour a week, to do something together, even if it was just a walk around the block or splitting a pastry at the corner bakery. Sometimes it felt awkward, like starting over after a long absence. Other times, it felt surprisingly easy. There were setbacks. Arguments flared over trivial things, laundry, missed texts, forgotten groceries. But instead of withdrawing, Sabrina tried to be honest about her frustrations. Marcus tried to apologize when he realized he'd gone silent out of habit, not malice. They learned to say sorry, and also to forgive, not just each other, but themselves. Priya noticed the difference first. Over lattes in their favorite coffee shop, she listened as Sabrina described one of their new routines. Sunday morning crosswords in bed. "It's not perfect," Sabrina admitted, "but it feels real again, like we're both in it." Priya grinned, squeezing her hand. "That's what matters. Real is better than perfect any day." Sabrina smiled, feeling lighter than she had in months. One gray Saturday morning, Sabrina found herself back on the apartment balcony, coffee warming her hands. The city was waking up, buses rumbling, a dog barking somewhere on the street below. Marcus slid open the glass door and joined her, leaning on the railing beside her. "Remember when we moved in?" he asked quietly, nodding at the skyline. "You said the view would inspire you." Sabrina smiled, recalling the memory, her excitement, their plans. "It still does. Sometimes I forget to look up, though." Marcus slipped his arm around her shoulders, tentative but a little surer than before. "Let's not forget anymore." They stood together, the silence easy now, a shared comfort rather than a chasm. Months passed. Dr. Rhodes's office became a place less of crisis, more of check-ins and progress. In one session, Dr. Rhodes asked, "What's changed most for you both?" Sabrina answered first. "I think I've stopped assuming the worst. I started asking questions instead of jumping to conclusions. I also realized that needing help isn't failing. Sometimes it's just the bravest thing you can do." Marcus nodded. "I'm learning to speak up, even if I'm not sure what to say. And I'm trying to notice the good things again, not just the things that go wrong." Dr. Rhodes smiled. "That's what growth looks like. Remember, it's not about never having conflict. It's about learning how to navigate it together." Sabrina felt a swell of gratitude toward Marcus, toward Dr. Rhodes, toward Priya, and, maybe most of all, toward herself. For not giving up. For letting one honest sentence crack open the door that she thought was already closed. It wasn't a storybook ending. No grand romantic gestures or instant fixes. Just two people, choosing each other again, every day. Sabrina sometimes still felt overwhelmed, and Marcus sometimes still retreated into his work. But now, they noticed. They talked. They tried. One evening, as they finished a puzzle together at the kitchen table, Marcus looked at Sabrina and said, "Thank you for not giving up on us." She smiled, eyes shining. "Thank you for reminding me it was worth fighting for." They sat in the soft glow of the lamp, the rain tapping gently on the windows, and for the first time in a long while, Sabrina felt hopeful. Not because everything was perfect, but because it was real. Because they were both trying. If you've ever felt like giving up was your only option, if you've stood on that balcony, staring at a city that feels too big and a heart that feels too tired, remember this. Sometimes the sentence that changes everything isn't shouted in anger or whispered in desperation. Sometimes it's a simple truth, spoken in vulnerability. "I wish you believed I want to fight for us, even when I don't know how." That sentence opened a door for Sabrina and Marcus. Maybe it can for you too, or for someone you care about. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever had a moment like this, when just a few words changed everything? Share your story in the comments below. If this video resonated with you, please give it a like. It lets us know we're reaching people who need to hear stories like this. And if you want more real-life journeys, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new chapter. Because sometimes the stories that help us the most are the ones that remind us we're not alone, and hope is never as far away as we think. Thank you for watching and for believing that change is possible.